Whoops. Bova came out with their client positioning. I got it pinned on private Twitter. Anybody wants to take a look. Hold on, I got the Goldman sentiment stuff, and there's one more thing. All right. Okay. All right. So basically, just to catch everybody up to speed here, we've been in cautious mode for anybody who's new to the webinar. A lot of the stuff, a lot of the signals, key signals we've been paying attention to for most of the rally finally lit up in yellow/red. And that's where, we want to be least aggressive. We want to be most conservative. We want to take a cautious approach, especially on the long side. We'll go over some of those things just in case maybe you missed the last webinar or two. And, it's funny because initially, if you guys remember, we first had the spec riffraff positioning get long, if you guys remember, before Sharpies actually flipped short. If you remember, there was a week where they both were long, which was kind of unusual, right? And I remember a couple of us were like discussing on Twitter. I think Tree, you made a comment. I was laughing. You're like, 1-0 riffraff specs, right? Or something like that. The first week they were in, right? It was, and we were laughing. And then since then, it's kind of been this, sneak in weakness, chop, tough to short, but underneath the hood, some legitimate weakness. Definitely tough on the long side. Some names, very erratic action. Okay. But as far as the indices are concerned here, you can see, initially started to look like maybe healthy consolidation, right? You had the bulls out there who just want to be bullish for whatever apparent reason, calling, cup and handle. And then, it's Halloween. We were joking around that cup and handle can come under disguise, all of a sudden turn into an ugly double top and catch everybody, right? So, you could see in the moment, right? In the moment, as you're trying to be patient and refrain from putting on risk, as you're taking off exposure, if you were doing that, a lot of us were in cash to begin with, so we really didn't have too many difficult decisions to make. But, on a chart, it looks so easy, right? It looks so easy. All right, I'm liquidating, I'm taking risk off up here, and, it's been down ever since. But, there are days where the market looks so strong. There are names that look so strong, right? And we all have to fight that FOMO. And, that's the beauty of having confidence in this game, in anything you use as an edge. Once you have confidence, that's how you can stay away from that FOMO, right? That's where you can stay away from getting emotional, because you can always go back to those signals and, look at those signals and say, okay, now I understand why, I'm not out there buying calls with everybody else. It's kind of that reminder. And I told a lot of you guys who've been with me for a while, even myself, I sound repetitive at times. I look at this stuff continuously, constantly, just to remind myself of what I need to do. Because I'd be dead honest with you, without it, if I tell you guys this all the time, if I was out there going off just my feelings, because I'm a perma bull at heart, you guys know that. If I was out there just going off my feelings, I'd buy everything on any little dip I could possibly find. You know what I mean? Emotionally, that's how I'm wired. So I have to constantly look at the stuff that I post to you guys to look at all the time, again, to keep me in check. That's my seatbelt. And one thing Again, something I mentioned to you guys a lot because I think you will learn this over time, or you will understand this over time. When you do have confidence, and again, the key word's confidence, okay? When you have confidence in your edge or in those signals, you're not worried about what happens around it. You're not worried about them being wrong. You know, like for example, if this market, like a lot of you, well, not you, but people on Twitter, just in general, people tell me, well, what if this time the riffraff is right? What if this time Sharpies are wrong? And my answer to that is simply, what happens? Did my life blow up? Did my account blow up? You know, what happens? Worst case scenario, okay, worst case scenario, they're wrong. I went into cash near the highs of the market, right? And I took a cautious approach based off what I feel was critical information, right? Critical intel in front of me. So I'm not concerned about the market rallying to new highs. It shouldn't bother me if my signals aren't there confirming, you know, me buying into that rally. And, you know, again, you guys, a lot of you guys are probably sitting back saying, yeah, well, I'm sure you feel like that. But you will realize once you build up confidence in anything in this game, you're going to feel the same exact way, okay? Because the opposite of that, coming into the market each and every day and just playing what's in front of you. You know, today I'm going to get long, or tomorrow I'm going to get short, or today I feel bullish, but now I'm bearish. Whatever it may be, this game could get really, really frustrating. And the trouble is hanging around for a decent amount of time in this game when you take that approach. All right. But anyway, it's a good example of, you know, while there's still things bullish out there, there's still some things that are bullish out there, you know, that our key signals are telling us we need to be cautious. Okay. And the weird thing I feel about it is that, and it's not necessarily weird because it doesn't always line up like this, but sometimes when we see what we're seeing now out of positioning, you also will see exuberance. Okay. You see sloppiness, meaning, you know, there are stocks like we saw like in the past, like, you know, some of these highs that we've seen, the software names or solar, whatever it may be, stocks going bananas, right? And our signals still weren't telling us that we needed to be careful. Everything was still bullish for us. And what's interesting is now when things kind of settle down, everything settled down now. You know, whatever sectors were scorching, whatever felt like speculative behavior out there, it definitely has slowed down. There's been some healthy breathers out there, right? And a lot of different things. I mean, healthy to the point where a lot of these things that were hot look actually attractive. They look good off dips, right? And it's just interesting that we're getting, you know, our caution signals, you know, ahead of that, okay, and not exuberance. So it feels weird, you know, it feels weird. Yeah, right, exactly. Like, you know, you got some healthy corrections out there. Like this, the market doesn't even do it justice. You got some stuff that was red hot that really, you know, usually would have found a bid already, right? Like you guys mentioned, Fastly, you know, would have been on Kathy's list off a pull like this. You definitely would have got a nice bounce by now, right? DKNG, you know, that thing was money off every dip. Every dip, that thing was money, you know, and you know, just it continues to pull. And I don't want to make too much out of that. I don't know what it means, you know. But what my point being is, you know, this is not exuberance anymore. There's air coming out of the balloon out there, you know. Right? The solar names. I mean, look at this thing. You know, that was the last of the Mohicans, like the solar names that just. I can't even look at this chart. This chart scares me. I got to get this off the screen because I'll be talking about 1999, 2000 again, looking at that chart. I got to get it off the screen, you know? But you guys know what I mean. Just in general, healthy pullbacks, okay? And it's not a total waste. It may end up becoming an entry for us, right? Even over the intermediate term, right? Maybe it doesn't, whenever it shows up, maybe it doesn't relate to new highs per se, but maybe there's a good couple of weeks or months where you get a bull trend put together, riffraff flip short, sharpies get long, all that sentiment, that scorch finally cools off, and you get a nice stretch where a lot of these entries can be an asset again. Right now, for me and a lot of you who are on the same page, it's not, unfortunately, because again, nothing has changed on our end, right? Nothing has changed as far as any sentiment is concerned. Nothing has changed more so on the positioning front with Sharpie and riffraff specs and the whole 9 yards. So we got to still be patient, right? I will say this, if it wasn't for earnings season here, we're probably pretty close to a decent tactical squeeze opportunity, or at least we should see it. All right. And meaning that yesterday's washout did some decent damage to where we should find bears getting squeezed sooner than later here. Okay. The problem for us, with what I've been complaining about all week, is that the best timing for that, the best timing mechanism we have for that is the sweeper activity, right? We like to get a heads up on sweepers changing trend. And the problem has been, they're buying calls, they're buying puts, there's earnings all over the place. We can't trust an ounce of the flow anywhere. So hopefully once we get out of this week, most likely it's probably going to be another week. These are the next 2 weeks are the big weeks when it comes to earnings. At least we can look towards the flow for, that snapback squeeze play in the interim while we're trying to be patient. All right. Here's some stuff I wanted to show you guys quickly. We've been looking at this every Tuesday, and I find it strange here on the Goldman sentiment indicator. I don't understand here. All right, so here's the Goldman stuff we look at, right? It basically runs down all different indicators from short term to intermediate term. A lot of these indicators we look at, we have our own version of it, but usually it falls in the same neighborhood, okay? So you got here, the blue diamonds, dark blue, navy blue are what you want to pay attention to. That's where we are now, all right? And you could see you got a couple of things over the short term here, short/intermediate, not short that we look at. We look at short term, we're looking at a snapback squeeze next couple of days. This is a little longer time frame than that. But shorter term, you're looking at a little too much bullishness, all right? What I found interesting is this here, okay? And there's so many different ways of looking at it, guys. That's the problem with this stuff, okay? This is generally Sharpie riffraff, okay? Again, we're looking at our own version of it. That is the worst arrow I've ever seen somebody draw in my life. But this is usually Sharpie riffraff right here, CTFC positioning, okay, equity. And look where this blue diamond is. All right, so they're obviously looking at something different than what we look at, right? They look at it as overall, there's not much to worry about positioning-wise, where if it was based off what we look at, Sharpie riffraff, the thing would be pinned over here, right? Whoop, it would be pinned over there. So that was the only thing different than a lot of the stuff we look at. AAII, again, I think one of the most underrated indicators out there. We'll take a peek at that today. Really interesting. This, very similar to Sharpie riffraff positioning, had a bullish signal for almost the whole entire rally. Literally, the whole entire rally. And finally, bears capitulated. And that was a pretty big week there. Matter of fact, let's look at it quickly while we're on there before I forget to do it. You guys will find it interesting. Hold on. Oh, look, they have me ready here. All right, so here is the bull-bear ratio. Okay, that's the main indicator we look at. And again, here's what I meant, right? Very similar to the Sharpie riffraff positioning, banging its head off a buy signal the whole entire rally, right? And then finally gets out of that over here, right where, same thing where Sharpie's flipped, pretty much. All right, so no sell signal yet. But again, just moving away completely from that bullish signal. And this is one I like to look at with it. Nope, that's not it. This is it. Okay, so this measures just the bears without the bulls involved. Okay, I like to look at it again, not necessarily as a buy-sell indicator or a signal, but it gives you a good idea of how the squeeze potential of a low. That's generally why I like to look at it. Also, you want to see if bears are capitulating, right? So same thing, bears hovered around here, top end of the range, the whole entire rally. They just didn't want to believe in the rally the whole way, and then finally out to neutral. Okay, so that's AAII. Let me flip back to this. All right, another thing that Goldman has is this risk appetite momentum, right? Momentum is the extreme short-term risk appetite intermediate. They learned that this is showing neutral pretty much, period, overall. I'm just going over this stuff. We look at this every Tuesday, so I wanted to show you guys where it is. And this is something that interesting too. So this is what we were concerned about a couple of weeks ago. This is going into the election, into the Trump election, okay, and where we are now. Look at how amazing the difference, okay? The gold is 2016, all right, and you had, look at this. That's, what was this? I don't know what this measures, positioning or sentiment or whatever. Anyway, you could see how this thing got away and still up here, and you got some risk to the downside, almost like they're not concerned about any of this. What's this measure? I don't even know. This is sentiment, I think, or positioning, one or the other. I should have made sure I labeled that. All right. No, it's definitely not price. It's either sentiment or positioning. I don't know how I didn't label what the hell it was. Definitely not price. If you remember, Tim, you remember 2016, what happened? Overnight we crashed, right? Trump got elected, and then we basically opened up green. Yeah, futures ripped. So, it would have looked like something like this if it was price. I'm almost positive it's sentiment or positioning, right? The icon bottom. So, and you could see here, you could almost feel it. There was no concern. You know what I mean? The put buying is a non-event. There's up till the last couple of days, there hasn't been any put buying, any protection, any hedging going on. So it's been a whole different ball game. And that's another reason, to be kind of cautious. All right. All right, let me show you this while I'm here. Hold on. For those of you who may have missed even the Sunday webinar. While I'm on here, let me show you guys what's the story. And then we'll get to some questions. Honestly, guys, don't ask me about names unless you day traded them today. I have zero opinion. I don't trust any flow. I'm not swing trading anything. As you guys know, I have no interest in swing trading. So it's a kind of, you're wasting your breath. Is this the one? Yeah, this is it. Yeah, maybe it's the opposite, Tim. Maybe it's the opposite. We'll see. We got a week to go here, but it could be. Here is the change. Nothing. Week over week. Sharpie riffraff positioning. All right. So, well, we'll see how this plays out. We'll see how this plays out. And so you guys know, like I've been saying, you don't try to predict this. You know, you don't try to factor in how much weakness is going to be needed. You know, this is actual positioning. So based on the noise and emotions out there, you know, this thing can move. God only knows. God only knows. Sharpies, did I ever see an example where the Sharpies got long, but there wasn't, you mean Sharpies fully hedged and there wasn't a flush? Is that what you mean by that, Emotu? If you're asking that, I think that's what Emotu's asking. Has there ever been a signal like this, right? And there wasn't a flush? And from my experience, since I've been following it, again, this is Sharpie riffraff combined. Okay, this is not just Sharpie, it's not just riffraff. This is combined when they're both at extremes. There was always some sort of breather or consolidation. It didn't have to result in this. You know, there were times it didn't result in a crash or correction. But usually, you know, a rally might have gone on for another couple weeks, and then we went into some sort of consolidation or a breather. I see Emotu asking, a buy signal. The buy signals are money. Oh, he's asking, okay, I got you now, Emotu. I think what Emotu's asking is, do these buy signals always come off flushes like that? Like, does it have to be a decent flush for there to be a buy signal? And the answer to that question is not necessarily. I've seen little dips. You know, I've seen little dips. But it depends on what the spec crowd does. You understand? That's what creates it. So if the spec crowd happens to flip from long to short and Sharpies do the same, you're going to get that bullish signal. You understand? But that's a good question. Yeah. Not all the time you need a monster pull to set up a bullish signal. I'm going to go back. That's a good question too. I'm going to go back and find them and post it and point it out so you guys can see that. That's interesting. The last time you guys were interested in 2008, always, you know, people are interested in 2008. And if you remember, we went through even just the Sharpie positioning there. And it's very, ironically, very similar to kind of like what we saw here. They remain long, they remain long, they remain long. And then they weren't early, wasn't into highs. The market pulled and then had a little bit of a rally and they sold into that. Very similar to what we had here. And they were hedged throughout the whole 2008 debacle. You know, 2008 debacle. You know, Emotu, I give you a good example that you might find interesting. Okay. In 2008, you remember what happened in 2008, obviously. Okay. The market, you had the whole market crash, right? We did not get a bullish signal out of this indicator into those lows in 2009. Okay. There was no bullish signal into that 666 low. What happened was we had that 666 low. We rallied, I forget how long, maybe a month, maybe give or take. And then we had a quick, sharp pullback, and that's where we got the bullish signal. So you might find that interesting. It wasn't off the crash and into a low. It was the first low of the rally. You know what I mean? The first dip of the rally, which wasn't nothing crazy. Yeah. So, but you make an interesting point. I'm going to go back and plot them on a chart so we can look at them. Now you got me interested too. All right. So that's the main indicator there. That's the one we're paying attention to. Another thing that's fascinating is that, the VIX, we don't have the same setup in the VIX that we usually have when we see these type of signals. Usually you have the spec crowd shorten the daylights out of volatility, right? Thinking it's easy money. You got the smart money building a position in volatility, which is usually cheap and laying dead on the ground. We're not seeing that. We're not seeing anything close to that. It's kind of like blah, Specs aren't really shorting volatility that much. There's some put buying in the VIX. That's about the extent of it. And as you can see here, in VIX futures, Sharpies aren't really doing too much. They're long VIX, but not to, any big extent like they've been in the past, where markets have melted down. So, that I don't want to read it too much into it because I don't know exactly what it means, but we were discussing this Sunday. Maybe it's not a big blow up. Maybe they're not looking for a big blow up out of this. Who knows? That could be good or bad. Sometimes those big blowups, you don't get them and you end up in a treacherous bear market. So that's not necessarily a good thing. Sometimes you'd rather have the big blow up. So we'll see. We'll see. Again, we have a good time trying to figure this stuff out, guessing and stuff like that. But it really is a waste of breath. It really is. Looking like we've been trying to predict when these guys were going to pull the plug on a long position, and I wasn't even close. Here's something you guys were asking for. Here's the Nasdaq positioning. Got hot in here. Hold on. Right, so this is Nasdaq, just Nasdaq, and you could see into this pull. And it had a lot to do with the spec money getting short Nasdaq futures. You had a big spike here, buying that, and right into the rip, right out. Right out. And at the same time, they were shorting the S&Ps. So this is a little misleading too. Yeah, because they weren't really long, Brahma, because they were short the S&P 500 and the Dow, So it wasn't even that they were really long. That's why I didn't get too excited off this, even though it was a nice entry. I wish I did get excited. But that's the reason why I didn't get too excited off it, because it was kind of like a pair trade. It's kind of like a pair trade. What else did I guys? That's it. I don't think there's anything, it's the same playbook. Same play, same plays. No, that was just off some news service I get that gives you updates on the. Oh, you're talking about the Gamma Treasury, off Bloomberg, or you? What are you talking about, Sean? Either or. I really Treasuries I don't follow enough, but there was talk about Gamma being at play in the Treasury market, and possibly being range bound. I don't know. Gamma is not even a big part of this either, by the way, guys. Gamma's not a big part of what's where the hell's my thing here? Of what's going on either, which is strange. Usually we get some sort of gamma, where you get the air coming out of the balloon. You got a little bit of it, but nothing. You know what it is? Again, I think the lack of aggressive shorting of VIX, I think, is missing. Hold on, I gotta pull it. You know what I mean? You almost always get those at highs, but it doesn't have to come at tops. I think, Ryan, weren't we talking about this? Ryan and Sean, I get our conversations confused because basically the three of us always talk about the same thing. So I apologize if I get you two confused, Ryan and Sean. But I remember one of you guys, I was discussing, of it, these tops being a process. And, this is kind of looking very process-like. You know what I mean? It's looking very process-like. We rather it not look like that, because that's usually where tops are formed. You know what I mean? You always want the quick correction, boom. They're always the scariest. They always get the bears riled up. But once it's over, you got the best entry you're going to find on the long side. You wash out every bull, you reel in every bear, and the squeeze is ginormous, as you guys know. Look what happened off the crash there. I mean, craziness. When you get these more of this like process top forming behavior, it's like pulling teeth, both sides. You can't short it. You can't get long it. You pull your hair out of your head. And it can last forever. It can last forever. Not good. Not good. So we want eventually to see some velocity out of this when it's finally over. But futures are dropping a little. Nothing really major going on here. What is it? 33.71. Yeah. I still think from what we're seeing here, we end up in some sort of range, but I could be wrong. What the hell do I know? Anybody else have any questions going on here? Well, let me see. Is there a certain period of time after the elections where we would be more confident in direction? See, but you're asking the wrong one. I would love to pretend to try to give you some sort of forecast and like I know what I'm talking about, but I have no idea. You know what I mean? I have no idea. I just, if you tell me, what sentiment, positioning, what all this stuff, what flow may look like post-election, at least I could give you a best guess. Like, how could I even pretend? You know what I mean? How can I even pretend to like try to predict what the hell the post-election is going to look like? Like for steam room members who are looking at the same things I'm looking at, we know what to be patient and wait for. It's not going to be easy, but we know what we want to see, right? We know what we want to see. This to start, right? We got work to do here. Like, I can't even talk about where I may want to start swinging names where we just got here, we just got here. I don't know how this is going to play out. I have no idea how this is going to play out. If you remember this here, you remember this? I told you guys, I got into cash here because it was close enough. I wasn't waiting for no red line. You know what I mean? This put enough fear in me to get me in cash. And the market, I think was it this little dip? I think it was one of these little dips. And then the market just continued higher while people were dropping dead all over China from the virus. Right? You heard people on Twitter, oh, the market just doesn't care. Doesn't matter. This is you heard all that bullshit again. And, the market continued higher until it suddenly cared. I didn't think this was something like that was coming. So I have no idea how this plays out. I really have no idea. You got a lot of people in the pool, as we like to say, right? Positioning is a lot fuller now. And if they have a catalyst and a reason to sell, could get exciting. Or it just may be an all-out chop slot fest. And like Tim is saying, the smartest thing is to just sit tight in cash and relax. You know, you got to learn how to do it at some point in this game. You got to learn how to do it. And this might be a good time to start. You know, don't let anything bother you. Stocks are going to look great one day. They're going to look like they're going to hell in a handbasket another day. You know, stop getting wrung out emotionally and just sit, wait until the things we look at start flashing some signals that we need to pay attention. You know, that's probably the best approach right now. But listen, a lot of us are degenerates and we can't necessarily do that. So what we're doing, a lot of us, is we're just day trading and trying to make a little bit of money. You know, we're trying to stay entertained, stay involved, and if we make some money while we're doing it, hey, we'll just bet a ball game instead. Tim's got a good point. You know, if you don't enjoy playing the market, like if you can't size down and just keep yourself amused without getting lumped up, then yeah, you should bet a ball game and relax. See, here's the problem though. I got a problem with that, and I'll tell you why. And not you, Tim. You've obviously been in the game a long time, but with like a lot of newer traders, they like to no. But I'm saying everybody's different. Some people need to get away from the screen because they can't help themselves. No, Tim? I'm sure you know a lot of people like that. They need to get away. So everybody's different, you know? No one can tell you what to do. You need to know for yourself what you need to do. But here's a problem I know that happens to a lot of people when they walk away. And it happened, the recent crash, okay? People got in cash and they got so fearful, okay, so afraid of buying again that even when the signals started to light up over here, they couldn't get themselves to pay attention. You understand? Now, that may not be a problem for some of you, but I know it was once a problem for me, and it could be a problem for a lot of you who are wired the same way. You know, you're so used to being in cash and it felt like such a good move and you feel safe that you're scared to get back in. Because it never feels good. You guys know that. There's usually a disaster around you, you know? So that's why, like, I give the example, you know, where I know a group that I've been playing this game with over the years that we pretty much do the same thing. We like to stay involved. Like for me, you know, I'm in the steam room looking at the flow, talking with you guys about the flow. That keeps me involved. You know, whether I got money at risk or not, I'm doing something. I enjoy the game. It keeps me involved. You know, day trading, trying to make a little bit of money keeps me involved. I know I'm not making any scores out there. You know, I know I'm not making any scores out there. I'm basically scalping equity in a sense. Yes, Praveen, exactly, right? It always, the majority of time when those signals are flashing bullish, the noise around you is not pleasant. The New York, I remember it like it was yesterday, Praveen. They were calling it the New York's Pearl Harbor. My pleasure, buddy. What is your favorite time to watch clean order flow? What do you mean by that? Like just in general time of year, post earnings, right after? Yeah. Honestly, you got a couple of weeks here, and then you're going to see the true colors out of flow, without a doubt. You got these next 2 weeks. Like this week's a big one, and things should clean up a little bit into next week. It's usually that following week, and then you really start to see the true colors out of flow. And what I mean by true colors is everything is catching a bet right now. Everything, whether it's calls, puts, it depends on a lot of times the climate that day. If it's a bearish day, you'll see names catching put action. If it's a bullish day, you'll see them replacing equity and buying calls, like you see Microsoft, Apple, these names don't catch more puts than calls into earnings ever. It's always call buying. That right there should tell you there's no edge out of it, right? Like, you ever realize that? Like, there's always call buying in like an Apple into earnings. Always. Sometimes you'll see some isolated put action, but you can't even trust that because it's most likely protection. So like, look at all the action that we've been seeing recently. Like, there are some names that have caught my interest, because some of these names never catch action. I day traded a name today. Honestly, like, I've never seen a sweep in it. We'll probably never see a sweep ever again in it, but it catches earnings. So like, I don't even know if it's a real bet or not. Right. It's like exactly like a BKNG. Well, I've never seen this name. Carparts.com. Seriously? I got flashbacks to the 90s. Carparts.com. You guys didn't see me posting the website all day? Hell, this thing caught an interesting sweep. They sell car parts on the internet. What do they do? So, but that's what I'm doing. I played a little equity. Forget it. The equity wasn't even that liquid. Forget about the options, and people got excited, I'm sure, over it because it's a name that doesn't catch flow, but it could be just, it could be replacing equity for all we know. We don't know. And it's actually a good looking stock. Look at this. First of all, the stock came from 80 cents. 80 cents in the Corona crash. And then in a straight line went to like 16 bucks. New economy name, exactly. Oh, SE. I get nightmares over selling that SE. But so that's what I mean. Names like this will catch action, and a lot of these type of names today caught action. There were several names that caught action today that were at decent spots. I day traded a couple, but I had a couple winners. I had a loser, and net, I made a little bit of money today. Having fun. RKT. This thing faded again. You got to be kidding me. Every time. But it catches nice action, and if you can play the equity, it's cheap enough to get a little move out of. It's cheap flow too. Here. Hey. So you can see where the action came in. You see the volume on the bottom? So you can see here where the sweep started up. All right? And here's your momentum. Again, I'm talking about equity, guys. The options, like I see some of you guys talking about, can be really tricky in these names. Really tricky. So you got to make sure you have the liquidity there if you're going to trade like that in the options. When did it fade? Because when I saw it, it had it had another move higher, and then it faded throughout the whole second half of the afternoon. Apparently, interesting. Does it all the time? Yeah, I'm sure they suck. I'm sure the options are awful. This name I basically scalped. I didn't catch anywhere near the move because I wasn't expecting the move like this. But this name was. Anybody catch this today? I don't know how the options are in this thing either. The stock wasn't that bad. PLTR? I was ready to say this is the first. No, they've been buying it. There was a little bit of flow, but today it just exploded, the flow. They bought a little recently over here. You're in 940. Right around there is where they caught some sweeper activity. Yeah, some initiations, right? Not upgrades, but initiations. But yeah, had a nice move. But just be careful because we're seeing a lot of this, and then they reverse the next day. Have you guys been noticing that? You know, and if you get a day like yesterday where the market's heavy because everybody's in the pool and they got to put on protection, you're going to have a lot of things heavy out there. There's going to be a lot. Like you saw yesterday, you saw the difference between yesterday, okay? Yesterday, when nobody's in the pool and positioning's light, breadth is probably positive on a day like yesterday. Even with the market getting killed, you would have certain stocks holding their own and going higher. I think yesterday at one point it was like 9-1 decliners to advances. You know, because positioning is so full. They own everything. They own everything now. They own all these things. Snow, what'd that do? That, I think that was up today. Up, down, up, down. And the other one's U, up, down, up, down. They look good, right? I like this U. I can't buy it, but I liked it. Snow, I wasn't a big fan of, but that looks just as good. This U had a nice action today. You know, was active, I should say. And Snow was active. So what are they doing? They're just running some of these IPOs because they haven't moved yet? Yes, Kathy bought the U. Yep. Kathy is in the U. Neo, yeah. When they report soon. Oh, November. I thought they report soon. Neo still looks good. We'll see, you know, when these things finally cool off. You know, I like that that Chinese one, LI. I like that one. I traded a couple times this one. I like it. And that's another thing. A lot of Chinese names have been catching action. From PDD to Baba, JD, all of them. IQ, Momo, good call. Momo yesterday, they annihilated. What about that? Oh, VIPS, VIPS. Oh my God, I didn't see that today. VIPS. So, you know, maybe some of these Chinese names, because China, you know, it's a different story over there. They're doing okay. But you got earnings, so be careful. You got earnings. You know, there's still money to be made in a lot of these things, but I think after earnings, we'll see what the hell everything looks like. A niner on Bitcoin. Oh, yeah, upside niner. Yep. And Bitcoin looks good too. Strong. Strong like Buddha. Bitcoin had a niner here too, right? Didn't it? When did Bitcoin have? Oh, no, not back there. Over here. Went a little higher after that and then kind of got caught up in a web. Well, you never know, you know? You never know. I mean, Bitcoin can run through niners if it gets hot. And Jemima. Big move. But that's the story. Later, Tree. Anybody have anything else to add? So, yeah, I mean, personally, you know, same old story. I would be really quick. Don't overstay your welcome. And then let's get through the next couple of weeks at least. And we could see, you know, tomorrow's a big day, right? Big earnings. CELH? I don't even know that name. What is it? Some nice consolidation. I don't know it. Trades options? Looks interesting. Later, Sean. Kathy, we'll see today when she posts. She's been a little gun shy too. She's not buying a whole lot again. She's been chilling out. Fastly, you got a niner into earnings here. Looks like crap though. I mean, look at the stock. Look at this, though. You know, look at this. Yeah, Kathy's on fire. It's about time she cool off too. You know, it's about time she cool off. Too many people on her tail right now. Too much riffraff on her tail. That's not going to last. You realize the riffraff, they always follow late. You ever realize that? Like, one thing you got to understand in this game, when somebody's picking their own stocks, right? Their own emotions are going in it. It's like gambling. You go through hot and cold stretches. When you're tailing hot stock pickers and you come in late, you're asking for a debacle. You know, the smart thing to do, which is not the easy thing to do, is come into somebody who's been ice cold and they're bound to turn, right? And even out if they're a professional player. But people take the opposite. That's why all these names that you hear that, remember, you guys probably don't remember, the Robert Prechters of the world and the other kiss of death who retired, who was red hot and then went through a cold streak. What's his face? He was on CNBC, the biggest fade on the face of the earth. Gartman. You guys probably don't remember Gartman from back in the day, huh? Gartman was gold back in the day. Gold. Commodity king. His newsletter, you couldn't get it if you wanted it. Dan Dierdorf. There you go. You taught me there. Henry Blodgett. You guys know what I'm talking about. You know, that's hysterical. So you guys know what I'm talking about. Yeah, they got to cool off. Lou Glucksman? I don't remember that name, do I? I remember the other guy, the Axe. Who was the Axe? Who got paid to put buy recommendations on, no, the guy, WorldCom, and he was a big, now this is going to bother me all night. I'm going to have to Google it. You guys will know. If you were around those days, you would know. No, Gartman just went ice cold. Everything, you know, everything he used to look at didn't matter anymore. And since the Fed got involved, you know, a lot of people went out with the Fed starting to rig the game, you know, understandably. Lou ran the floor at Lehman. I don't remember that. It sounds familiar, Lou, but I can't picture a face there. Rubini. Well, Rubini came for the crash of the virus here, calling the end of the world, and he was wrong again. So now he's like MIA. He's a big club guy, Rubini. He likes to go out and party it up. But yeah, that's the last time I saw Rubini. Yes. Nathaniel just wrapped it up perfect for me. All right? Keep your eyes open, but be careful. Sharpies are fully hedged. They're spitting on any further upside, and positioning is pretty full. So that could add some trouble on the downside. You know what I mean? Yeah, me either, Amy. Me either. Be patient. You know, try to make some money, but then just don't hold a lot of risk. You guys know what I'm talking about. You know, you don't want to come in one day with 5 positions deep in calls or whatever it is, and you're stuck and you get walloped. That's the name of the game. You understand? It's not like you could go and buy some calls on Fastly into earnings. You know, you want to roll the dice in a small way. It's not going to make or break you. It's not going to kill you. But that's what we're trying to accomplish here. You don't want to be caught up here heavy and you get caught in something. You got to learn to try to avoid those things in this game. Otherwise, you give everything back every time. You know, we discussed this. Right, and then we get Ackman back crying, and we're all ready to go again. You know? All right, everybody. Always a pleasure. Dan Dorfman. Always a pleasure. That's not the guy I was thinking of, by the way, not Dorfman. There was another guy. If I find it, I'll post it on Twitter, my personal Twitter, and then you guys will remember it. You guys will remember it. All right. Have a good night, everybody. Good luck the rest of the week. Good luck on you earnings plays, you degenerates. I'll see you guys later.